In the winter of 1971, the world watched as South Asia erupted in one of the shortest yet most significant wars in modern history, the Indo-Pak War of 1971. A complex interplay of political, social, and military factors had been simmering beneath the surface, leading up to this momentous event. East Pakistan was in the throes of a severe political crisis. The Awami League had won the general elections, but the West Pakistani establishment was reluctant to hand over power. This reluctance spurred a sense of betrayal and ignited the flames of revolt in East Pakistan. As the political situation spiraled into chaos, the West Pakistani military launched a harsh crackdown in a bid to suppress the rebellion. Their heavy-handed tactics, however, only fanned the flames of resistance. The ensuing violence claimed countless lives, triggering a massive exodus of refugees into neighboring India. India, already grappling with its own challenges, found itself in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. Millions of East Pakistani refugees poured into the country, straining its resources and sparking widespread concern. The Indian government, led by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, was forced to intervene. The refugee crisis was not just a humanitarian concern for India. It was a geopolitical issue that threatened the stability of the region. India started mobilizing its forces, preparing for a confrontation with West Pakistan. This mobilization was not merely a defensive measure. It was a strategic move, a clear signal to West Pakistan that India would not stand by while atrocities continued across its borders. As word of the impending war spread, the international community watched with bated breath. The conflict threatened to destabilize not just South Asia, but also the delicate balance of power that existed during the Cold War era. The stage was set, the players were in position, the tension was palpable. The world watched, waited, and wondered. Would diplomacy prevail, or would the drums of war drown out the voices of reason? As tensions escalated, war became inevitable, setting the stage for a conflict that would forever change the political landscape of South Asia. In the icy heights of the Himalayas to the marshy mangroves of the Sundarbans, the war was fought on multiple fronts. In the vast landscapes of the Indian subcontinent, the War of 1971 unfurled a tapestry of conflict and strategy. Each battlefield, a testament to the audacity of the soldiers and the ingenuity of their commanders. One such battlefield was the desolate terrain of Longowala in the Thar Desert. Here, a small contingent of Indian soldiers, numbering around 120, held their ground against a massive Pakistani force. Despite being vastly outnumbered, they managed to stall the enemy advance until reinforcements arrived. Their brave stand under the cover of darkness became a legendary tale of courage and tactical brilliance. On the Western Front, the Indian Navy launched a daring assault on the port city of Karachi, codenamed Operation Trident. This naval attack effectively crippled Pakistan's naval capabilities, with Indian frigates wreaking havoc on the enemy's maritime assets. The success of Operation Trident was a major turning point in the war, demonstrating India's naval prowess and strategic acumen. Meanwhile, in East Pakistan, the Mukti Bahini, a guerrilla force of Bengali nationalists, waged a relentless campaign against the Pakistani forces. Trained and equipped by India, these freedom fighters played a pivotal role in disrupting enemy lines, creating a constant state of chaos and confusion. Their contribution was instrumental in weakening the enemy's hold over the region, paving the way for the Indian Army's decisive victories. The War of 1971 was not just a clash of arms, but a chess game of strategy, with each side making calculated moves to gain the upper hand. From the sandy dunes of Longowala to the bustling port of Karachi, from the snow-clad peaks of the Himalayas to the dense forests of the Sundarbans, each battlefield bore witness to the bravery and strategic prowess of the fighting forces. The war witnessed some of the most intense battles, showcasing the bravery and strategic prowess of the fighting forces, leading to a swift yet significant conclusion. While the war raged on the battlefields, a different kind of battle ensued in the world's diplomatic corridors. The 1971 Indo-Pak War wasn't just a clash of armies. It was also a test of alliances, a chess game of international diplomacy. As the conflict escalated, so did the diplomatic tensions. The United States and China, both significant global powerhouses, were backing Pakistan. With Nixon in the White House and Kissinger as his Secretary of State, the United States saw Pakistan as a vital cog in their Cold War strategy against the Soviet Union. China, on the other hand, viewed its support for Pakistan as a counterbalance to India, which it perceived as a regional rival. But India wasn't alone. The Soviet Union, another global superpower, stood firmly by India's side. Moscow had already signed a treaty of peace, friendship, and cooperation with New Delhi earlier that year, pledging mutual support in the event of an attack. The Soviet Union's support for India wasn't just about friendship, it was also a strategic move to counterbalance the US and China's influence in the region. The United Nations Security Council became the stage for this diplomatic tussle. As the war progressed, the Council convened several times, with many member states pressuring India for a ceasefire. India faced a challenging task. It had to not only defend its military actions, but also convince the international community of the humanitarian crisis unfolding in East Pakistan, which was the primary trigger for the war. Yet, India held its ground, navigating through the pressures and the politics. It negotiated, persuaded, and stood firm where it needed, ensuring that it had the necessary international support to continue its military campaign until its objectives were met. In the complex web of international politics, the war's outcome was as much a result of diplomatic maneuvering as it was of battlefield victories. The 1971 Indo-Pak War serves as a stark reminder of how wars are fought not just with guns and tanks, but also with words and alliances. On December 16, 1971, a historic moment unfolded on the grounds of Dhaka's racecourse. This was no ordinary day. It was a day that would forever change the landscape of South Asia. The Pakistani forces, after 9 months of intense and grueling warfare, were finally ready to lay down their arms. In the face of overwhelming odds, they had no choice but to surrender to the Indian Army and the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali guerrilla fighters who had fought tooth and nail for their homeland's freedom. Under the watchful gaze of Lieutenant General Jajit Singh Arora, the commander of the Indian and Bangladeshi Joint Command, Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi of the Pakistani Army signed the instrument of surrender. This was no ordinary document. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Bengali people and their struggle for self-determination. It was a moment of great significance, not just for Bangladesh, but for the entire region. The surrender marked the end of the 9-month-long Bangladesh Liberation War and the beginning of a new chapter in South Asian history. In the wake of the surrender, the world bore witness to the birth of a new nation. Bangladesh, once East Pakistan, was now a sovereign state, free from the clutches of oppression. The Bangladeshi flag was raised high and proud, its red disc against a green field symbolizing the sun rising over Bengal and the blood of those who died for the independence of Bangladesh. The surrender brought about an end to the brutal and bloody conflict that had claimed countless lives and left deep scars on the psyche of the people. But it also marked the beginning of a new era, an era of autonomy, of self-governance, and of a renewed sense of identity for the people of Bangladesh. With the surrender of the Pakistani forces, the war came to an end, marking the birth of a new nation and the beginning of a new geopolitical era in South Asia. The aftermath of the 1971 war left an indelible mark on the region and the world. This conflict, which resulted in the birth of a new nation, Bangladesh, had far-reaching implications that echoed beyond the immediate region. In India, the war was seen as a decisive victory, strengthening the nation's global standing and solidifying its role as a regional power. The successful application of a blend of military strategy and diplomatic maneuvers boosted the morale of the Indian armed forces and the country's populace alike. Pakistan, on the other hand, grappled with a severe loss, both in terms of territory and prestige. The war exposed the fragility of Pakistan's political structure and the deep-seated ethnic tensions within the country. The defeat led to significant changes in Pakistan's military and political landscape, and the nation embarked on a path of introspection and reform. The most profound impact, however, was felt in Bangladesh. The end of the war marked the dawn of a new era of independence for the Bengali people. Free from the shackles of domination and oppression, Bangladesh embarked on a journey of nation-building, striving to heal the wounds of war and carve out its own identity on the world stage. The Simla Agreement of 1972, signed between India and Pakistan, aimed to turn the ceasefire into a lasting peace and laid the groundwork for future engagements between the two countries. This agreement, while not without its shortcomings, represented a shift in international relations in the subcontinent, emphasizing peaceful resolution of disputes through bilateral negotiations. In the grand scheme of things, the 1971 Indo-Pak War underscored the importance of diplomacy, the power of people's movements, and the devastating impact of conflict. It served as a stark reminder of the consequences of ignoring cultural and linguistic diversity within a nation and the potential for such neglect to escalate into full-blown conflict. The 1971 Indo-Pak War, a significant chapter in South Asian history, continues to shape the region's geopolitical narrative, reminding us of the power of people, the horrors of war, and the importance of diplomacy.